If you were a video game producer and director of survival horror titles, would you create a video game about dinosaurs inhabiting a research facility? I ask myself questions like these all the time, pondering about how someone thought I should make a survival horror video game about dinosaurs. To be honest, I envy that creative cleverness. Not only do I envy that talent, I also admire their drive to make their visions a reality. Dino Crisis. A legendary survival horror video game title. What is there to say about this video game other than the game itself is a work of art? My father bought this title for the PlayStation upon release because he was excited to see a spin-off version of Capcom's survival horror genre. I remember he loved this video game. Dino Crisis was so different compared to any other survival horror video game during the time of release. In fact, this video game still stands as a unique survival horror video game. But what makes Dino Crisis stand out more than the name is the overall experience. Playing this video game is unforgettable. Dino Crisis is a survival horror video game developed by Capcom and released on the PlayStation in 1999. You play as Regina, a member of the Special Operation Raid Team that is assigned an infiltration mission to a remote research facility on Ibis Island. The objective of your mission is to capture and detain Dr. Edward Kirk, a world-renowned scientist who was proclaimed deceased 3 years ago in a headline laboratory accident. Upon arrival, the entire research facility is deserted and traces of unnerving conflict can be seen upon surveying the area. Then, like a freak of nature, you are suddenly attacked by a 5-foot bipedal carnivore that looks like a dinosaur. A simple and straightforward extraction mission that turns into a prehistoric nightmare.
What's the situation over there?
It's Gale. I lost him.
So what's the bad news? Did you run into some guards?
You're not gonna believe this. He was attacked by some kind of dinosaur.
Now that's a good one. So, who was it? Arnie?
This isn't a joke, you idiot. We were just attacked by a big-ass lizard.
For real? What's going on over there?
I have played Dino Crisis countless times over the past few decades. Each time is always a wonderfully horrifying experience. The first time I played this video game, I knew I would enjoy the game. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs everywhere in a high-tech facility. What an appealing setting. Even before playing Dino Crisis myself, my father would entertain my older brother and I with his gameplay experience of this video game. As a collaborative effort, or family activity if you will, we would help solve puzzles or direct our father with strategies to avoid the dinosaurs. The type of backseat gaming that was fun and encouraging. I think, in the end, my dad just liked the bonding time with his two sons more than the video game itself. Dino Crisis is a video game that my older brother and I bond over from time to time because of our father. From the in-game puzzles to the comical voice lines, everything within this video game became memorable inside jokes between the two of us. For example, when Gale deliberately calls Dr. Kirk a rat for escaping him, my brother and I always say that voice line whenever we see a rat in another video game.
Gave us quite a run for our money. You get around, don't you? Just like a rat. And you got this whole island set up as your little maze.
Another example is the puzzle for obtaining the pistol upgrade in the lounge area. You need a 4-digit passcode to open the wall safe. I remember I said the code like 8159 when my father was playing. We all laughed, but my older brother was hysterical when I exaggerated a simple code. Ironically, because of my exaggeration, my brother and I remember that wall-safe combination in the lounge 14 years later. In other video games with 4-digit passcodes, we immediately try 8159 as our first attempt. For a while, I went through life thinking that Dino Crisis was a renowned video game. Little did I know, however, that Dino Crisis is actually a very niche survival horror video game. Whenever I brought up Dino Crisis to another fellow video gamer, they would go and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that video game." What that ultimately meant was that Dino Crisis did not exactly leave a strong impression on people. This kind of saddened me in a way because I thought Dino Crisis was an acclaimed survival horror video game. In 2016, I met someone in a Monster Hunter lobby, and we were having a discussion about Capcom video games. They brought up Dino Crisis as one of their favorite titles, and I was shocked. She mentioned all of the comical and ridiculous things about Dino Crisis' story that synchronized with me instantly. We actually became best friends because of our similar thoughts and views about Dino Crisis itself. When talking about Dino Crisis with my best friend, she started to mention all the problems. At first, I was reluctant to agree with her at all. As she kept explaining the rigorous details and key point problems, however, eventually she had me.
More repairs?
This whole facility is probably held together with tape and glue. I think I can fix this, but it'll take some time.
She was good at convincing people because she was studying to become a doctor for medical practices. She had to have a way with words if she was going to succeed as a doctor. I still cannot believe I met someone like that on Monster Hunter and became one of her best friends. The reason Dino Crisis did not make my list of top video games of all time is because of the story. Let's start where she mentions the big first problem with the story. Why did only one team member bring one radio for the mission to contact the helicopter transport?
What we ought to do is just call in the chopper and get off this death trap.
That's a great idea, but Cooper has the radio, and he's missing.
You would think that every team member would hold something of that great importance on them during this critical mission. Instead, the one team member with the only radio somehow finds himself in the middle of the island and gets killed. A couple of minor points to follow up with that major point is how that one team member finds himself in the middle of the island in the first place. Everyone else made it to the landing zone perfectly. How does this one guy end up in the middle of the island? If you do the geometry math problem of 4 people parachuting from the same location going the same direction, the odds of him not landing around the same location as them is theoretically impossible, or mathematically impossible. The next major problem with the story is the Tyrannosaur itself. Biological animals that are massive tend to not be unnoticeable when they move or are even heard. Tyrannosaurs are known to be very large predators with significant presence. My best friend asked me if I have ever seen or been near an African elephant in my life. I told her the biggest living animal that I have been next to is a giraffe. She explained that wild African elephants are noisy animals by nature. A tyrannosaur would be just as noisy, or even more so, as an African elephant. Somehow, the Tyrannosaur in Dino Crisis can move without being noticed and completely silent at times. There are, of course, the minor problems, like how fast the creature can move underwater compared to on land, and so on, which ends up leaving more questions about the Tyrannosaur overall. The last problem she mentioned about the story is the infiltration team members themselves. They are not scientists. The team consists of a meathead militia leader, a tech-savvy programmer and technician, a jack-of-all-trades medicine mixer, and a backup handyman. The constitution of the team lacks scientific knowledge to handle a large-scale experimental facility. When the team confronts the anomalies that are plaguing Ibis Island, apparently operating all the machinery and computers around the place takes only one single person with a minor degree in chemistry. In the retrospective point of things, this does not make any sense. Despite the big reason for Dino Crisis not making my list of top video games of all time, there's actually a personal reason. I was comparing Dino Crisis and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis side by side. I had to make a decision. Was Dino Crisis better than Resident Evil 3 Nemesis? In my personal opinion, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was a better survival horror video game. Therefore, Dino Crisis was nominated as a runner-up. However, that does not mean that Dino Crisis is not a favorite video game of mine. I still love Dino Crisis and play this video game every so often. Dino Crisis is a survival horror video game that brought me family bonding memories and a best friend I thought I would never meet. I could not be any more grateful towards the creative cleverness that created this video game. Perhaps we will see the return of this video game, as rumors spread that Dino Crisis will be getting a remake. Until that time, however, Dino Crisis remains a work of art many years after the introduction of prehistoric horror.
You, handsome. You're extinct!
Here are a couple more voice lines my brother and I say in other video games from Dino Crisis to this very day, with some examples included.
Yeah. Now what I want to know is where those things are coming from.
Now what I want to know is where those things are coming from.
Dr. Kirk?
Dr. Kirk?
So who were they fighting?
This wasn't much of a fight. I don't think these guards hit anything before getting sliced and diced.
This wasn't much of a fight. I don't think the guards hit anything before being sliced and diced.
You get around, don't you? Just like a rat. And you got this whole island set up as your little maze.
You get around, don't you? Just like a rat. You got this whole island set up as your little maze.
Hey, do something!
Hey! Do something! Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video and episode, please feel free to check out the Pondersaur channel for more episodes. Our Etsy store has expanded inventory with exclusive socks. Along with a Pondersaur mug, you can now update your wardrobe with Pondersaur apparel. Come check out our store via a link provided in the description below. Once again, thank you for all that have supported this community. I'm your host, Richard Dahlm, and this is Pondersaur Words with a Roar. Take care.